Involved in medicine now for about half a century. And over that period of time, I've watched quite a significant change in why people are sick. As I started noticing more of my patients suffering from disease because of toxins, I then started looking at, well, what percent of chronic disease is due to toxins? So I hired a couple of really bright graduates of mine, and we spent a year looking at the research, and I would now assert that the primary driver of chronic disease in the industrialized world is now environmental toxins. Now, I want to be real clear. I'm not saying that nutritional deficiencies are no longer a problem. I'm not saying nutritional excesses are no longer a problem. What I'm saying is that we've actually added an even bigger problem, and we're poisoning ourselves with metals and chemicals.
Environmental toxins are actually a really big problem. You've all heard of phthalates and plastics, and it's in the food that we eat. And that's one of the hundreds and thousands of chemicals we're now all of us contain. Don't ever cook anything plastic or heat anything plastic in a microwave. So hot foods, not good in plastic. Try to always, of course, eat organic. Fresh food, not processed. So those are simple things you can do. You know, and the big knock against organic food, oh, it's no healthier for you than regular. It absolutely is, even on a vitamin level, but certainly on a toxin level. Mercury is a known neurotoxin, endocrine toxin. So mercury toxicity manifests as anxiety, sleep disturbance, insomnia, and it's a neuroendocrine toxin, so it poisons all your endocrine glands, so you can have low hormones. It's an immunosuppressant, so you can get sick and get cancer. So where do you get it? Fish and fillings. So if you have those silver fillings in your mouth, ain't silver, right? Those are 50% mercury. It's really ridiculous they're still putting this in people's mouth, but they still do. Arsenic, also a known toxin. People get poisoned with arsenic, on purpose or accidentally. It's in the groundwater in a lot of places. So you're not likely to get lead or mercury in your water, but arsenic definitely can be there.
Toxins must be excreted through the body's liver detoxification system. I find that many patients, including autistic children, have low levels of glutathione, the major detoxification compound in the body, so they cannot excrete metals.
Glutathione is incredibly important to the body. Now, why is that? So glutathione does basically three things that are critically important. Number one, it's the most important antioxidant in our cells and in our mitochondria. The second thing glutathione does that's so important is it plays a critical role in the liver for getting chemical toxins out of the body. And the third thing glutathione does, which is pretty interesting, and that is glutathione is responsible for pumping mercury out of the brain across the blood-brain barrier into the blood, where the mercury can be and then get gotten rid of. It also helps gets mercury out of the cells, and it also binds to the methyl mercury we get from fish. It helps get it out of the body as well.
It is important for us to boost glutathione levels. To do this, you must get the methylation train running properly, because if it stalls, so does the sulfation train. Sometimes you can take glutathione itself, or compounds that help your body make more glutathione, such as NAC or NAC, also known as N-acetylcysteine. Also, you can take alpha-lipoic acid and milk thistle. But you can also eat your way out of trouble using phytonutrient superfoods from a mostly plant-based diet. Should be the foundation for everyone's diet and health. Broccoli sprouts are the biggest inducers of glutathione production, but you can load up on all the members of the broccoli family every day, such as collard, kale, cabbage, kohlrabi, mustard greens, rutabaga, turnips, bok choy, Chinese cabbage, arugula, horseradish, radish, wasabi, and watercress. The next step is to boost our mitochondria. Most of us don't think much about where our energy comes from, why sometimes we have more or less of it, how it might affect our brain, or even the whole process of aging. But in fact, everything we have explored in the first 6 keys influences our health directly through energy. Enough energy means a happy, healthy, focused, sharp brain. Lack of energy means slowed mental function, autism, mood disorders like depression, and ultimately Parkinson's and dementia. So one of the things we've discovered in the last few decades is the importance of energy. And I don't mean energy that you feel, although it's related. I mean energy that your body produces from oxygen and from eating food. And that gets burned in your cells in a little organ called the mitochondria. They're like tiny little energy factories or power plants. When those power plants start to become dysfunctional, which can happen from anything that causes inflammation, from toxins, from your gut, from nutritional deficiencies, when those little energy factories and power plants start to wind down, that's when disease occurs. And what's striking is we found this link to autism, to Alzheimer's, to Parkinson's, to obviously things like diabetes, depression. These are all common pathways through which these diseases are affected. And a leading autism researcher, Suzanne Go, is studying mitochondrial therapy in autism, where she provides the nutrients to help the mitochondria work better in a certain subset of kids with autism, and they recover. Things like CoQ10 and carnitine, lipoic acid, N-acetylcysteine, ribose. These are just mitochondrial nutrients that we're often not having enough of that can help reverse this. The part of your body that uses the most energy is your brain, which has the most mitochondria, the little energy factories inside your cells that produce the energy that runs your body.
And one of the biggest toxins that affects your mitochondria is damaged vegetable oils, fried foods, and other things that are pretty commonly known toxins like mercury directly impacts these.
Breakdown in mitochondria are caused by two things. Number one, the standard American diet, or SAD diet, which contains too many calories and not enough nutrients and antioxidants. And the second reason is reduced nutrient intake, vitamins and minerals that limit the ability of our antioxidant enzymes to function. For example, without enough zinc or selenium, these enzymes cannot do their job. A number of basics are essential for boosting mitochondria, including omega-3 fats, which make up the membrane of the mitochondria, and 2 B vitamins, niacin, or B3, and riboflavin, B2, which are necessary to help the enzymes involved in turning food into energy in your mitochondria. Other nutrients we get either from our diet or our bodies produce them. But as we age, or if we're exposed to any type of physical, toxic, or emotional stress, we need to replace these nutrients. The top mitochondrial nutrients are acetyl L-carnitine, alpha-lipoic acid, coenzyme Q10, NADH, D-ribose, magnesium, riboflavin or vitamin B2, niacin or vitamin B3, and N-acetylcysteine or NAC. These mitochondrial nutrients and antioxidants can protect your critical energy-producing factories. The final step to an ultramind is to calm the mind. Your body governs your stress and relaxation responses through your autonomic nervous system. This system controls all the automatic functions in your body, and it's divided into two parts: the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. Chronic stress increases inflammation, increases anxiety and depression, and damages the hippocampus, leading to memory loss, mood disorders, and reduces serotonin levels. It also interferes with thyroid function, causes loss of muscle, and much more.
It's painting, musical instrument, all these things are de-stressors. When it comes to movement and exercise, some of the things I think are real simple, and that's just stretching at night. Keeping it really, really simple. What's tight? It could be as simple as just stretching your neck and different movements like that. Standing and having one leg over, like a pretzel stretch. One leg over the knee, the other leg over the knee, and just really stretching your lower back, and just really stretching up nice and high. So reaching the ceiling and doing that multiple times over and over again.
Your path to a better brain does not have to be complicated. Follow these steps for 6 weeks. Number 1, eat right for your brain. The first thing you can do to optimize your brain function, a simple take home, is change your diet. Get rid of the processed foods, get rid of the starch and sugar, increase whole foods, plant-based foods, and increase healthy fats. Number 2, tune up your brain with supplements. Take a high-quality, high-potency, highly bioavailable broad-spectrum multivitamin, which contains all the basic essential vitamins and minerals. I also recommend taking magnesium, vitamin D3, omega-3 fatty acids such as EPA and DHA, and special methylation factors like folate, B6, and B12. You can often find special activated forms of these nutrients which are most effective for brain health. I also recommend taking probiotics to improve the digestion and reduce gut inflammation. The next step is to exercise. We now know that movement and exercise are critical for the brain. Find some form of movement that you love and incorporate it every single day.
I think my take-home message for everybody is you can start small but start exercising now. It could be a walk, because we know that just walking alone can enhance your mood.
The next step is to sleep.
So here's the concept. Most people in their homes have Wi-Fi 24/7. It's going and it's strong. And if you ever turn on your phone and say, okay, let's find out where the Wi-Fi is, it's often not just your house. It's like you're receiving Wi-Fi from other people's houses. So there's information that electromagnetic fields can actually damage the brain. And they've done studies with children that when a cell phone is held near their head, they've done studies that show the pattern of penetration into the brain. And they've done studies with rats in which it's shown that electromagnetic fields from cell phones actually cause immediate brain damage. One of the things I do, and I recommend, is to decrease electromagnetic fields after a head injury. So I recommend everybody turns off Wi-Fi at night, because you don't need Wi-Fi when you go to sleep. And a lot of brain healing occurs while we're sleeping. But it appears that brain healing occurs better if there isn't a strong Wi-Fi field. And then I ask everybody to turn off their cell phones. A lot of people have their cell phones next to their bed. And these cell phones are constantly receiving emails and text messages. There's this going on all the time. So I ask them if they do that, to try to please turn it off or get it way away. And then some people have clock radios that are plugged in, and there's huge electromagnetic fields from that.
Take our experts' tips and maximize your sleep time. Your brain will thank you. Also, find ways to actively relax and find ways to connect with others. Meditation, yoga, hiking, deep breathing, deep conversations. These are all ways to relax and make your brain happy. Also, train your brain. Learn something new. Pick a new hobby or passion and pursue it. Remember, if you don't use it, you lose it.
We should always be challenging ourselves to learn new things, whether it's learn how to play the piano, learn a new instrument, learn a new language, or spending time with family or meeting new people. All these things grow and strengthen the brain. And so I do things like aromatherapy, where a person smells like rosemary or lavender, and it can help with their anxiety, because it's actually not only impacting our nose, it's actually activating specific areas within our nervous system that can calm our emotions. That's sensory genomics. Another example is what I call vestibular rehab, where we spin someone in a chair and it activates these little canals in their inner ear. And so if they have problems with balance or coordination or anxiety, a lot of times it's because they have an imbalance in their inner ear, and we can retrain that. That's sensory genomics.
Our final tip for the 6-week plan is to live clean and green. Minimize toxic exposures by reducing use of plastics, staying away from foods high in mercury. Check your home for mold or other toxins.
Numerous neurotoxins that we're being exposed to on a regular basis, and while any one of them in a minute amount on its own might not make you sick, the cumulative burden of them, a lot of them which are stored in fat tissue, which we all have, our brains are actually made of fat, and a lot of these neurotoxins get stored in our brains. The cumulative burden of these neurotoxins is bad. It's bad for our hormones, it's bad for our brains, it's bad for our metabolisms, and I think we're only beginning to see the cumulative effect of them. And one of the number one things you can do to avoid these toxins is just eat organic food. So a lot of these toxins are in non-organic food, and while it is more expensive, the investment in your body, the only vehicle that you have for your entire life, is so much more important than the little bit of extra money that you're going to pay for just buying organics.
True health is not about the absence of disease. It's about the presence of vitality and energy. I asked our experts to share their top tips for brain optimization, and here's what they had to say.
The top tips for neuroplasticity, number 1 is you have to get sleep. Number 2, you have to do some degree of physical exercise. And with physical exercise, the research is showing that the key thing that it releases is something called BDNF. And it doesn't have to be for long periods of time, but it has to be high intensity. So the higher the intensity of the exercise, the more BDNF you release in your brain. That encourages the growth of neurons. So a lot of times I'll just have my patients do what's called a 7-minute workout or something. And if they can get their heart rate up just for a few minutes, that completely changes their brain chemistry. And then the other things are do whatever you're bad at. And this is not the trend for what people like to do. So people like to do what they're good at, right? And as a kid, as you're good at some things, you get encouraged to do them, and then you don't do the things you're bad at. So whatever you're bad at, you need to do. So if you hate learning a language, you got to go learn a language. If you hate art, guess what you have to do? You got to do art. So that's the best way to develop neuroplasticity.
We all could have better, brighter brains. And what it takes is, just as you have physical muscles, you have mental muscles. The challenge here is we're not using our mental muscles to our greatest ability. And so what happens if you're not growing those mental muscles, then they're atrophying.
Another thing that is highly important for helping with health is to keep mentally sharp. So using your brain to sort of think, doing puzzles, engaging in conversation, reading books. You know, the brain's like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it.
My biggest piece of advice to people that want to live a healthy life is to get connected and stay connected, because that is the spice of life, that is the meaning of life, that's what we should be doing, and that's what we evolved to be, connected to one another.
When I asked our experts for the most powerful tool to keep our brains healthy, they quickly replied, community. Community can be more effective than medication when it comes to our health.
Community is really important, and community happens on a family level, it happens in a neighborhood level, and it happens in a broader context. So there's a wonderful book called Alone Together by Sherry Turkle, and she talks about how technology in some ways bringing us together, but it's also making us separated. So real connection, and I call this vitamin O, vitamin oxytocin. Oxytocin is the thing that mammals get when they're in community and they're touching one another and they're hugging each other and they're sitting down and eating together. That sharing, that social bonding that happens, that glue that cements us together is really, really important. When you look at the blue zones, that's what blue zones is really, the striking thing is they have that sense of community and that sense of purpose and cohesiveness. And, you know, we're a social animal. We need that, you know, that vitamin O is really, really important.
Having a group of like-minded individuals to keep you accountable can be a key part of the journey toward health. You need to build yourself a support system to succeed long-term. You need a team working together toward the same goals. It might be just one person, a self-guided support group, one led by a health coach or wellness champion or a community health worker or even a health professional or even an online community that can support, encourage, and guide you. I want to remind you that there is almost always something you can do to improve your condition. Never give up and keep digging for the answers. Thanks for watching.